Dear.
It's trapped. Better go save it.
Fuck you, Laurie.
Early in the morning when the sun is shining, I would take a walk to Kingery. There's a little meadow.
Okay, and we're back. We're doing 6 years later, a leftovers chat. We're watching the TV show The Leftovers from HBO. I'm Ethan. I've seen the show many, many, many times, and I'm with Benji, who is in England, who hasn't seen the show at all. Hi, Benji.
Hey.
So last time we left our heroes, Patti had just killed herself, slit her throat, put a piece of glass in her jugular, and let Kevin know that he does, in fact, understand. So, and tomorrow is Memorial Day, so we don't know what's going on. So let's find out what's happening in Season 1, Episode 9, The Garveys At Their Best, where we do not start in the cabin right away. We go to a cold open. Kevin is out for a jog across Mapleton and listening to The Girl from King Marie. He grabs some hidden cigarettes from under a mailbox, and while enjoying a smoke, he sees a stag that seems to be glistening in the sun. After swinging down some mouthwash, he goes to an unfamiliar house. Laurie is on the phone and then offers him breakfast. And it seems at this moment we're in a flashback episode.
It was interesting to see Kevin smoking, because that kind of immediately made me, in my mind, go, okay, so this must be a flashback. We established in the previous episode that Kevin quit smoking. So yeah, straight away I was kind of thinking this must be a flashback even before he got to the house. But when he did get to the house, it was really interesting choice for me that we heard Laurie's voice, because in my mind that was going to be, you know, maybe end of the season, end of the second season, end of the third season, some big moment when we've been waiting this whole time, and she's been sort of drawing out the suspense, the fact that they don't speak, we don't know what she sounds like. So I was imagining it was going to be a pretty grand moment when she first kind of speaks again to Kevin, and it's entirely possible that it still will be, and it will still have a big impact. It will still be the first time that we've heard post-departure Laurie speak. But it was a bold move, I think, to let us hear Laurie's voice, at least in this flashback, though, you know, I guess it would have been pretty hard for them to do a flashback episode about it. So I don't know, you know, if they'd had the choice, do you reckon they would have done this episode without us hearing Laurie's voice? But there was just no way they could have done that and still maintain this kind of quality of a flashback episode, because it did seem like a weird place for us to hear her for the first time.
And I really like the way they did it. You couldn't really see her. They had her in the background, all shady. So I guess they were trying to trick you even just for a second to thinking that it was something else. And I noticed that, and I don't know why I noticed it. I don't know if it'll make sense later. She didn't kiss him when they got really close. She just offered him breakfast. And I thought they would, for some reason, I remembered them kissing. So we begin in the Garvey house, and it's October 13th. Kevin, dressed for work as a policeman, noticed a crack in the house. I couldn't help but notice that also had some extra meaning with the crack in the foundation of the marriage. But moving on, as they are discussing a party and discussing meeting with a breeder to get a dog, a very happy and carefree Jill comes downstairs, and it's off to school. What did you think of this new Jill, or this old Jill as it is? What do you think of seeing her?
Yeah, that was probably the biggest shock of the episode for me. You know, forget what I just said about Laurie's voice, and, you know, forget everything else that comes in the episode, with maybe one exception. This was the biggest oh wow moment for me, just seeing Jill, and they did such an excellent job of having those two sides of the same character just be complete binary opposites. So much so that it's just, every moment that you're watching it happen, you're kind of in disbelief. You're like, surely this is not the same person, And yeah, it was really well done. It really kind of captivated me, that look at what Jill had been like before. And I guess it's a testament to the amazing job that they've done building up the post-departure character of Jill. So that seeing that, threw me so hard.
And it also says a lot about, the actress, Margaret Qualley. She's really young.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is her first scene or not, but this is the same, it's 2020, and this same actress was just called out by Brad Pitt in his acceptance speech for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're dealing with A-class talent at this point, and it really comes through here.
Yeah, so much so that initially I was wondering, just for the briefest moment, if it was a completely different actress. That was the level it was on.
The biggest thing I had is like, how do they take care of height so well? Do you know what I mean? How do they handle those effects? And I think it's just characterization, what she does in her body. It's not like it's a Jonathan Rhys-Meyers job from Lord of the Rings, who's 7 feet tall and 400 pounds, but he's playing, Gimli the dwarf. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He's only playing a couple years younger, but I mean, it's amazing. Nora wakes up to her kids jumping on her. Over a hectic breakfast, Nora is running back and forth taking care of her family. She has to remind her husband to take the kids to school because she has a job interview. I don't like this guy. Anyway. Laurie Garvey is at work when she gets a call from her doctor who urges her to come into the office the next day. The appointment is made, and she calls in her first patient, Patti Levin. So, on the way to school, did you have something to say about that?
Well, I mean, we can come back to them because there's another scene of them, but yeah, it's definitely an interesting subversion of the role we've seen them playing, where you have like the mentor and the mentee, and it's kind of flipped on its head, and she's the one in control. She's the one trying to take care of and lead the discussion. It's definitely completely the opposite of what we've been used to.
Yeah, we'll get into that more. Okay, so this other section is about Kevin and Jill on the way to school. We talked about just more of what an amazing transformation Jill is. She lets him know, as everyone does, that Kevin Sr. knows about the party. So don't be shocked. Kevin having another cigarette. Hears some yelling at a school, and the kids are screaming, and it's a monster. And they're saying it's a monster. Kevin walks through the destroyed school, and someone tells him that deer has caused the destruction. So we'll get back more on the deer in a little bit. In therapy, Patti tells Laurie that she feels something terrible is going to happen. She continues to say that her feelings like this in the past were like tremors, but this is the big one. Laurie digs deeper, and they discuss Neil and the terrible abuse she has suffered at his hands. Laurie suggests that Patti should take her pain and quote-unquote shit it in a bag and put his name on it and leave it on his doorstep. Patti knows nothing can stop the world from ending, and and there's something wrong inside of Laurie. Laurie replies, "That's just not true. There's nothing wrong with me." So Patti and Laurie. We saw them talk about this at the diner earlier in the season. Obviously, they were referring to the scene as their last session. And the biggest thing that stuck out to me here is Patti says they go over the fact that Neil has kicked her out of the house. She says it's her house. I mean, she says it's his house, and Laurie says it doesn't work that way. But it seems to work that way when Laurie leaves Kevin for the GR, that's for sure.
Wait, what do you mean? You mean in terms of like ownership, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, the Garveys are in this house that we haven't seen before.
Oh, right.
Obviously much more pricey house than, Kevin Sr.'s house where Kevin and Jill moved. And, Laurie specifically says to Patti, it doesn't work that way. Like, just because one person paid for the house doesn't mean that it's not both of your houses. And it seems to me something happened to the house after the departure
Mhm.
when Laurie joined the GR, and there's no house
Right.
anymore. And I was just pointing that out.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, that is interesting.
But yeah, what do you got to say about Patti and Laurie in this meeting?
Well, it's interesting that Patti says, I can't remember the exact phrase, it's that there's something wrong inside of her. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
And I believe we've heard that phrase, or something like that before, when Laurie comes around to Kevin Senior's house, where Kevin and Jill, etc., are staying, and she gives him the divorce letter. And inside the letter, there's a point where she says, I mean, I can't remember again the exact words, but she talks about something inside her being broken, and that even Kevin couldn't fix that. It was just, something was broken inside of her. So that definitely reminded me of that. I don't know if you recall that line as well.
No, I didn't. But since you reminded me, I do remember. In my mind, as I'm watching this, I'm thinking of the thing that Laurie knows in the back of her mind that no one else knows is that she's pregnant. And maybe that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, well, no, I was as well. I just didn't know if all three of those things were linked. Where you have the.
Did you catch the pregnancy bit after she talked to her doctor? Did you put that together, or did it go later in the episode when you put it together?
Just remind me, the first time she talks to the doctor,
right before she calls Patti in.
And
the doctor specifically says we're getting towards a end date, a decision date.
No, I don't think I did, to be honest.
Okay. But yeah, this is Patti says in the cabin, there was a time when I told Laurie everything, and that's right now. And I'm sure later on there's a time where Laurie tells her everything. We're seeing this now. We're seeing, and this is one of the biggest things to bring up here, I think, is if there's 80 people across the world that are saying that the world is going to end tomorrow. Wait, let me say that again. If 80 people go around preaching that the world is going to end, and one of them says the world is going to end tomorrow, and then the world ends tomorrow, or there's a big event that actual day, it's coincidence, but a lot of people are going to follow that person and think they know what's going on.
Yeah, and that's actually something that I picked up on as well. I forgot I was going to mention that. And that it occurred to me while I was watching, and you have this person who kind of looks like a crazy person saying, something's coming, something's going to happen to the world. And in your mind, obviously, in this case, we don't dismiss her, but, in other examples of this, whether it's in real life or in other forms of media, those people, we usually go, okay, whatever, it's, no, it's not going to happen, but there's always people like you saying that it will. So it's just, it's like I say, it's just probability. You're always going to have people claiming that these events are going to happen. So then when they do happen, some people are going to be right about it. And I'm sure there's a few examples of that in our world as well, not in such life-changing huge events like this, but the principle is definitely something we see today as well.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day, right?
Right.
All right. So Nora's in her interview with the future mayor to help with her campaign. She says she needs to put her brain to use and needs to have something for herself. Nora promises for the next 4 weeks, she doesn't have a family. Chief Kevin Garvey Sr. interrupts the interview, and it seems the future mayor and him have a deeper relationship. This meeting's a little interesting.
The meeting between Nora and the mayor, or Kevin Sr. and the mayor?
So the whole mayor scene, the scene with the mayor in general.
Yeah. I still can't get a hand, like, actually, I can't place her age in my mind. Do you have any kind of rough estimates of that?
Who?
The mayor.
How old she is?
Yeah.
I don't know. Early 30s? Something like
Right, but when you look at her relationship with Kevin Senior, it's not just me. They don't look the same age, right?
that. No.
Okay.
No, but, I mean, sounding a little ageist there, Benji. A little ageist. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
No, but
Well,
people meet in different times in their life, and
Mhm.
it seems the mayor seems that she has been through some things and she knows what she's talking about. She's a city council woman, and Kevin Garvey Sr. looks like he's been through some things, and obviously the matriarch of the Garvey family is no longer around. So it's not shocking. Also, it's obvious. It seems obvious to me that she didn't get elected. She got departed in.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that the whole, when we come back to the timeline post-departure, she is definitely, from this insight I've had from this flashback, we know she's one of the people that have, in a kind of messed up way, benefited from it. Not in I'm not saying, obviously she wouldn't want for that event to happen in order for her to be elected, but it's pretty clear she only got elected because of that. Or at least it was played a very major part in that election. So it's an interesting look at her relationship. It's not like when we're watching the rest of the series, like episode 1, 2, 3, whatever, and we see the mayor. In my eyes at that time, that was like a struggling mayor who'd been, she was kind of helping kind of run this nice little town, having a good time, just enjoying her role for however many years, and then disaster strikes and she's left trying to pick up the pieces and try and keep people going. But it's really not that, because she's only just come into that position post departure.
So after the meeting with the future mayor, during the morning police meeting, the chief and Garvey Jr. get into a back and forth about the proper way to put the deer down. Kevin says, "We don't need to kill it." And the chief responds, "If it's dangerous and unstable, then yes, we do."
Yeah. Which is,
considering his future, it's...
Yeah, that was what went through my mind as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing to read into. The chief says if Kevin gets there first, he can just put it to sleep. He also lets everyone knows that he knows about the party tonight. Tommy calls Kevin as he was picked up for causing a disturbance at his biological father's house. Kevin goes to the jerk's house and warns the father not to touch Tommy again, roughs him up in front of his newer son. Tommy wished his parents had never told him about his biological father. Tommy says he shouldn't get to pretend like it didn't happen. Kevin replies, "Sometimes you have to pretend." Not too much to say there. I think it's pretty black and white, but I think it's I think a lot of things in this episode, the meaning is so in your face. There's not too much to analyze.
Yeah. Well, that back and forth reminded me definitely of Kevin and Patti's conversation in the preceding episode, where she says the difference between, this event happened, the difference between me and you is that I don't pretend it didn't, or, I acknowledge that it did. So it's a similar kind of theme in terms of, like, how much can you pretend and not pretend, and etc.
So we're at the breeder's house, and the breeder is familiar to us. Gladys used to be a dog breeder. And Kevin calls to says he can't make it. All this dog stuff is like a baby metaphor, right? Like throughout the show, right?
Maybe. I remember I didn't I still haven't pieced it together about the baby at this point.
I'm sorry.
So,
I'm sorry about that. I've never seen the show. I don't know.
right.
All right. So that was my note.
Now I'm just imagining Kevin walking in on a scan and screaming, "It's not our baby."
Yeah. Laurie tries to explain to Jill why she can't be at something for school. Sounds to me like she does this a lot. Jill has a very, very good way of glossing over it and says, "Don't worry, you're the best mom in the world," and gives her a hug. And Kevin comes home with Tommy and everyone seems to be happy. Now, this is one of those times where I make one of those TMI observations about children taking care of their parents, which is something that happens in the world where parents decide to bring the children into the world. But most of the time, as soon as they get old enough and they're out of diapers, on a psychological level, the kids start taking care of the parents. It's codependency a little bit, and it's happening here a little bit. And the reason why it's TMI is because it happened with me a little bit. And I guess I'll just let that sit there unless you have something to say about it.
You mean as the kid or the parent?
As the kid, well, I mean, and I'm not talking about any kind of like physical, like problems the parent has or anything like that. I'm talking about mentally. Sometimes the children has to take care of the adult. And we train these kids at a very young age to be able to do that for their parents and whatever specific issues their parents have. And at this point, Jill wants her mom at the science fair. But her mom can't go to the science fair. She has this doctor's appointment. And it seems that Jill is very adept at telling her mom it's okay and you're still the best mom in the world, while also reminding her she didn't come last year either. Do you know what I mean? Makes sense? So yeah, Kevin comes in with Tommy and everyone seems very happy. This is right now you could call this the Garveys at their best. Okay, so the second part of the episode is the surprise party, where we meet a bunch of characters that we've seen before, but in a different context. During the surprise party, we see Mary Jameson and a few other folks from the season. Lou tells Laurie about the deer and how it is confused. Nora puts her kids to bed and they also discuss the deer. Her daughter says she can turn off the light all the way because she isn't scared anymore. Her husband comes home extra late and still does not seem to register Nora's interview. This guy's a jerk.
Yeah, man. He is.
Of the highest degree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess Matt was right. It's definitely not the rapture.
At the party, Chief Garvey is holding court and dancing with Jill, Matt, and Mary. Matt gives a toast to Chief Garvey as Mapleton's Man of the Year. Kevin Jr. gives a very seemingly heartfelt speech, and at the end he's saying, and I quote, "Dad, you built your life and mine on your own. Now look at me and look at what I got." To family. Dissatisfied Kevin looks on at the party revelers. While he is smoking outside, his father tells him he could see through his speech. Kevin says he thinks something is wrong with him and asks why it isn't enough. Kevin Sr. says, because every man rebels against the idea that this is it. You have no greater purpose because it is enough. Now, about this stuff, I mean, the thing that I noticed this time at the party was Kevin's speech to Kevin Sr. and the dissatisfaction in Kevin Garvey Jr. And he said, "Dad, you built your life," and he throws in "and mine," right? Which seems, I'm not sure if that's like a dig to himself about the fact that he's working with his father. He says you built them on your own. He goes, "Now look at me and look at what I got," to family. Which is like, look at him. He's got a job, you know, he's got a good job. He's got a family. He's got healthy kids. He's got a healthy wife. Physically, everybody seems to be fine. and he says to family. So I see more what Kevin Sr. saw in this speech this time around than when I usually watch it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a lot to say about the speech, but the kind of party as a whole, the whole thing felt so distinctly wrong in a weird way. To see, we've had 8 episodes of just such kind of, it's been a lot of dark, I don't know if dark is the word, depression maybe it doesn't fit it either, just melancholy. It's been, obviously it's been really, really, really rough on the town, and we see that over the episodes, and and they're also kind of emotionally
just the fact that everybody's taking better care of their hair.
Right. It's
just weird.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It just is weird because we've had these 8 episodes building up this kind of really serious, grave, intense feeling through these characters and their depth, and then to suddenly see them in this context is weird.
It's definitely
it's just weird to watch. Obviously I'd be happy for them if by the end of the 3rd season they get back to this place, but to have that sudden jump, and I know it's only a flashback, but it still feels like a jump because we've watched Cairo and then straight into this the whole episode, it felt kind of I don't know what the word is, clinical. It just didn't feel the same. It didn't feel like the same. Obviously it didn't feel the same because it's pre-deployment. But it just didn't feel like it had the same heart to it a lot of the episode. It felt a little fake.
Well, at the end, I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about the order of the episodes that we've seen them in.
Mm-hmm. With the exception of like the last 5-10 minutes or so. Yeah, and then the other thing about this party is when Kevin Senior is talking to him about man and greater purpose, and you don't have a greater purpose because this is the greater purpose. It's interesting that he says that, given that we know from what we've seen in the other episodes that Kevin Senior now seemingly believes he does have a greater purpose even than perhaps his family, and that greater purpose, we don't know what it is yet, but it seems Kevin Senior believes he now has some greater purpose, and this is obviously in the post-departure world, and other people think he's crazy. He thinks he's got a greater purpose, but it's definitely a pretty clear contrast to when he's talking to Kevin Jr. and saying there is no greater purpose than your family. He definitely seems to have swung away from that.
Then we go back to Kevin and Laurie as they discuss getting a dog before bed. He promises to go to the breeder tomorrow. Okay. Let's try to get a little fun for a second. A little sidetrack. We're on October 14th, right?
Yep.
Kevin is up a little early, and so is Laurie. Laurie has a weird interaction with Tommy about tattoos and seeing his sperm donor father, which Kevin did not tell her about. Okay, I don't want to talk about this scene. I think, and this has been brought up in places that I've listened to about The Leftovers before, the age difference between the actors and the height of the actors just makes it a weird scene for me to watch. It looks creepy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he does look a bit like an overgrown baby.
Yeah.
Although I didn't know what you just said about the dad being the sperm donor dad. Is that?
Well, it's almost a derogatory term for a waste of space father.
Oh, it is. So you didn't mean in the technical sense?
No. Well, I mean,
Okay.
Yeah, he's the biological father.
Right, but it's not like Kevin can't have children because we've seen that's not the case.
No, I wasn't talking about Kevin.
Well, I know, but the implication is if Kevin can't have children, then they go to a sperm donor. I just told you so literally there, and I was like,
okay.
That's why he's so mad at him? That doesn't really seem...
No. He was... Okay. Now we're back with... now this is weird because this song, The Girl from King Marie, I didn't know the song before this show, but I've seen the show so much that this song is a greatest hit to me. I've heard the song a million times. It's on my Kevin Garvey running playlist. That's right, everyone. I have a Kevin Garvey running playlist, and it's on there. I love it. I guess it's the first song on his actual playlist.
Well, maybe the last, actually, if he's coming to the end of his run.
That's all right. All right. Whoa. You've just blown my mind.
Unless his run is like 4 minutes.
Well,
because he smokes and he can't run. I don't know.
Well, sometimes people run when they have 3 legs instead of 2. Oh. Well, I knew we were gonna
not this episode.
Well, this is the episode. I knew we weren't going to talk about this, but here we go. This is the episode. I sent you the Jimmy Kimmel clip, or was it Conan O'Brien?
Conan, actually.
Yeah, and,
I think
where they talked about, for lack of a better term, I apologize, Justin Thoreau's package. And this is the episode where they had to give him the extra underwear because Drew noticed it the first time. And I only bring it up because it may or may not be relevant in future episodes of The Leftovers.
Well, I'm excited to see how that comes true.
Normally I wouldn't bring that up because, you know, we're better than that fucking shit, man. Anyway, I'll bleep that out. We're back at King Marie. Kevin is running. He stops at the same mailbox and has a cigarette. This is where we start to get into some leftovers shit right here. This red car comes up to Kevin. And a lady comes up and says, are you ready? He goes, what? And she goes, sorry, I thought you were someone else, after talking to the ladies in the car, and they drive off. So, do these ladies have the inside scoop? Do they know what's going on?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
At this moment, a manhole cover explodes almost on top of Kevin. Very reminiscent of, and I know you've seen at least this much of Lost.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna.
Where the hatch blows up. Oh, was that what you were gonna say?
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah. Can you imagine if the rest of the episode had just been Kevin descending down the manhole and then just hearing "Make Your Own Kind of Music" playing in the bottom.
Right. On many levels, so that would have been awesome. But yeah, the thing almost should have 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42 on it and say quarantine, right? All right, so Kevin is so freaked out by the manhole cover, he totally forgets to do his cover-up cigarette smell routine and has a very nasty fight with Laurie. He lies about smoking cigarettes, and he should just be honest this time in reference to Tommy seeing his biological father. She pushes him about being honest about his smoking, and he adds, I don't want a dog. He was willing to go along for her. He gets a call about the deer being spotted. Laurie says, it's trapped. You better go save it, which is passive aggressive at its most, right? And then we are treated to the world's greatest. It's the fuck you to end all fuck yous as far as I'm concerned. You know, what do you think of this scene? And thinking about how this is the last time these two are going to talk to each other before the departure, it seems like.
Oh yeah, I hadn't thought about the fact that that's the last thing they've said to each other. I guess it's not the last thing Kevin said to her because he's spoken to her since, but it's the last thing he said before the departure.
And I mean, I'm sure there was time there where, you know, the GR wasn't a fully formed thing yet that she just did the next day.
Right. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so.
Yeah.
But it really, really shows the cracks, like the crack near the painting in the wall. It shows the cracks of everything that's been happening underneath it in this whole episode. Kevin tracks the deer down to a house with a couple with a special needs child. He's filling up the jars of pennies, as we saw earlier in the season. They can't leave the house with him. Kevin approaches the deer. The deer breaks through the door past Kevin and runs outside the house. I forgot how violent and scary this deer scene was. It was straight up horror movie stuff. Even Shining stuff. So the deer has been hit by a car. Kevin is forced to put it down. He doesn't hesitate. We now see that it had a mylar balloon stuck in its antlers. It says it's a girl. We had heard the police chief say before that it had been at a baby shower.
Oh, okay.
And it also seems like the light that Kevin saw upon the deer was maybe the reflection of the mylar balloon.
Maybe.
Question mark, hashtag what? A woman, Laurie sitting in a car, and the woman from the pilot drives past Laurie with her screaming baby in the back seat. Laurie runs into Mary and Matt Jamison at the doctor's office. Mary tells Laurie that Matt was sick as a kid and he is having a cancer screening that Matt doesn't let her go in for. And Mary says, and I quote, "I'd rather us be afraid together." And so I had a note here. Laurie looking at the lady from the pilot who loses her baby at the beginning of the series, and she looks contemplatively at the baby. We know she's on her way to her doctor's appointment. Well, maybe you don't. I mean, you don't know why she's going to the doctor yet.
No, maybe I should have at this point, though.
And there's a lot of thinking going on with Laurie right here, and the screaming baby. And there's so many things you could be thinking of. That woman looks miserable, but also Laurie smiles at the fact that maybe something that would make her life better or fix her relationship with Kevin would be having a baby, because from my point of view, life is simpler when you have a baby because you have one goal. You know what I mean?
Right.
Your life is boiled down to
you don't have I'm not speaking from experience here, but I'd imagine you don't have quite the same time and freedom to argue about whether or not to get a dog when you're concerned about a much more pressing and important thing like that.
Exactly. Now Matt is okay and the two go out to celebrate, and Mary says she will drive so Matt can get drunk. Kevin tells the woman who hit the deer that he will take her back to her hotel. At Nora Durst's house, it's a 3-ring circus in full effect, and the kids are being especially jerky. If my child ever started to bang on the table and say, "We want food," he would not get food that night. I think he knows that. I'm not some strict disciplinarian, but come on. Ridiculous. Especially 3 of them. And this a-hole husband on his phone, probably talking to the preschool teacher, right?
Yeah.
Tommy has joined Jill at the school science fair. They discuss their parents arguing, and they start joining in with the other kids in the circle of the science project. Now, is it at this moment where Jill says that she thinks that Kevin is going to leave, which shows that not only is she cheery and taking care of her parents on a mental level, but she's very perceptive and pretty smart too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I heard that. And when she said, "Hey," I was assuming she meant Kevin. I didn't know who else she would be talking about. So it is a hint that the pre-departure Jill and the post-departure Jill do share more similarities than at first than it might appear. Obviously the pre-departure Jill looks this kind of happy-go-lucky, high schooler, and you think it's a completely opposite contrast to post-departure, and you think that the departure has obviously forced her to grow up and mature and become more perceptive and more able. But yeah, this is a hint that those qualities were there all along. The departure just stripped her of the other ones, like the cheery nature, but what she was left with was still there before. It wasn't given to her by that.
It was either the departure that was going to turn her that way, or she was going to start listening to the Smiths. And I'm keeping that in because I don't like them. Anyway.
Oh,
what she was listening to the Evaporators?
Well, the Evaporators is the one that was the poster on a wall, right. Post-departure. Yeah, I should say as well, Tommy was another. I know we talked a lot about Jill, and maybe it's overshadowed Tommy a bit, but it should be mentioned as well that Tommy, it's a really good job of making Tommy a completely different person in this as well. It's really sad when you watch Tommy, how kind of happy and just lovable he seems as a guy to everybody. He's friendly. It's just it's it's like I was saying, it's sad to see that, knowing what we know. He seems so much older, even though we talked about the actor's age and size and stuff, making him seem perhaps a little bit too old to pull off that scene in the bed, but he still definitely does seem a lot younger than what we've seen of him post departure. So they definitely did a good job on that one as well.
And I guess I didn't think about that simply because they open up with him causing a disturbance and being drunk. So you already see him as a fairly fractured individual at the beginning of this episode.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I guess I kind of glossed over that there. He's obviously not completely. I mean, it's similar to what I was saying about Jill, right? We see in both of them that these qualities that seem to define them after the departure are obviously still there before the departure. It's just all the other bits, like, okay, Tommy gets into trouble and he seems to be troubled before the departure, but at the same time, he's capable of putting on a happy face and being that guy, like Jill, who manages that as well. But then post departure, it seems like those things have been sort of robbed of them. Although, I mean, maybe there's one scene of Tommy when he first talks to Christine in the first episode where he seems a little bit more normal. So maybe I'm overstating that, but
before he kills someone.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so Kevin and the woman from out of town have a conversation where she ends up asking him if he's a good man. He says he's not a good man, so of course they end up sleeping together.
Yeah, is that like code or something?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. At the doctor's office, Laurie is having a pregnancy checkup and sonogram. She sees her healthy baby on the screen and hears a heartbeat. Okay. Now I'm just going to read up till the end of the episode and then we'll talk about it, okay? First of all, we cue the leftovers music, which is actually a piece of violin by Max Richter called November. So we have the kids at the science fair. Nora's kid spills juice on her phone as it rings and she yells at him. She tears the last paper towel off the roll and her kids are crying and Kevin is having extramarital relations. After that, the main departure theme, piano theme starts up. There's a scream at the doctor's office. Kids disappear at the science fair. Nora turns around and her family is gone. Kevin's new friend has vanished. Laurie turns back to the sonogram screen and sees nothing. And that's the end of the episode. That was the Garveys at their best. What did you think of all that build up in the departure at the end there? To see the actual moment when it happened, that was pretty harrowing.
Yeah, well, I mean, at first I was disappointed with this being a flashback episode. Obviously, to go from Cairo and the events that have transpired there, you're so eager to get what comes next that it's, you get the flashback cold open and then you're like, okay, that's interesting, that's cool. But then when it carries on, at first I was like, oh no, I just want to see what's happening. Like, can we not save this for another time? But pretty clear, it's pretty clear, like 10, 20 minutes in, that this is what we're going to get for the rest of the episode. So you kind of accept that. And then you start to draw what you can out of it. I mean, as an episode, it wasn't one that I was really, a lot of it I didn't really enjoyed watching, partly because I liked that feeling of slight mystery to the earlier episodes where we don't know exactly what's happened in the past, in like the Garveys' past, and we don't know the details of this stuff, but also it feels like we don't need to know really, but it's still like a nice little mystery. I don't know. It felt like some of this stuff was stuff that I wasn't particularly eager to know about. I want to know what's happening moving forward rather than the day-to-day details of this past stuff. But having said all that, the final kind of I don't know how long, 10 to 5. I think it was about 5, 6, 7 minutes. That final section is probably one of the best moments of the series so far for me, which did kind of make that build up worth it. It was just so, I don't know, how do you describe that last little bit? It's really well done, and it does kind of redeem some of those other qualities of the episode.
All right, everybody, we're going to get into some mild Game of Thrones spoilers for the next minute or two, okay? Spoilers, Game of Thrones. Probably should go watch it, especially third season, last episode. Next to last episode. The Reigns of Castamere, okay? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Red Wedding, right? People say that that's one of the best episodes of Game of Thrones. I bet you if you go back and watch that episode, you're not going to remember anything. You're going to think it's a really slow episode except for the last 15, 20 minutes.
Right.
Right. So that's kind of how I feel. I don't feel that way about this episode. There's lots of things in this episode that are touchstones in the leftovers for me, especially the conversation between Laurie and Kevin at the end. Shout out to Jack from Jay and Jack, the F.U. Laurie episode. You know, what's interesting about this episode to me is the conversations I've had with so many people thinking that The Leftovers is so dark that if they had this, people have actually told me that if you're going to watch The Leftovers, you watch this episode first and then you start with episode 1. And you'll understand it more and you know where the show is going and it'll be a better experience for you because of so much of some of the melancholy that's in this, especially the first chunk of episodes. And I think that that's crazy town. I think that's insane simply because, you know, if you can't get past the stoning of Gladys, okay, cool. We don't, you know, you don't deserve to watch Cairo and the Garveys at their best, as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? It's like a test. If it's not for you, it's not for you. If you can't watch the national anthem episode of Black Mirror, you can't watch Black Mirror. You know what I mean? It's hard. It's hard to watch. I mean, and I don't know if that answers any questions about the last couple minutes, but you know, you have clarity brought to you to Laurie from 8 episodes in one 5-minute scene. Like, so much of the character of Laurie Garvey is explained to you in this one moment of something that no one knew about except her and her doctor. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I think it's great. And, you know, I can't wait for you to watch the last episode. I want to know, what do you think of that idea of people watching this episode like first or third or something?
Well, no, I mean, I totally agree with you. The thought of doing that, it's just, when I'm looking back at what I really enjoyed about this journey up until the episode is not knowing this stuff and the tension and intrigue and mystery and depth, but also the build-up of, you know, nerves and excitement, and knowing that we're going to find out at one point what has caused this. That is almost as enjoyable a viewing experience as finding it out. But it only works like that because of the order it's in. Especially the scene at the end with the departure. Seeing that in the first episode, like seeing that as the first episode would just be robbing you of such a powerful experience, because of the work you've put in over the 8 episodes preceding, where we've heard so much about it from these people that we've become really attached to. But the only place we ever see it in the first episode is somebody we don't really know. So then being able to see it from the perspective of these characters that we've grown to kind of love and follow and really understand on a fairly deep level just makes it so much more sublime as a as a spectator. And it just seems such a shame for somebody not to get that experience.
Yeah, and in this new age of television, this is the kind of TV I want. And, you know, for relaxation, I've been going back and watching some TV of my youth in the evenings, and I've been watching episodes of NYPD Blue. And while that's like the height of the network 24 show a year type of TV, you know that there's going to be a crime, you know the cops are going to get the guy at the end, and you know that Sipowicz is going to curse a little bit, and something will happen big at the first episode, something will happen big at the last episode, and you got 23 episodes in the middle of the same.
Yeah.
And so this kind of stuff is meant for me, this kind of stuff that started with Lost and carries over now into the leftovers now, this 13 episode one story, these 10 to 13 hour movies, they really are my favorite thing to watch and talk about.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, watching this episode first for the purpose of making the leftovers easier to watch sort of defeats the whole point, doesn't it? If you want easy TV, you just go watch, you know, and any other show on TV apart from this one, because that's not, you're kind of missing the point if you're doing that, I think.
And there was one other thing I was going to say. No, that was the thing I wanted to bring up the order of the episode. This was also, I want to let everyone know, this is also the second episode in a row I forced Benji to watch with me. Watched it at the same time. There were less moments where I got to click in for a second and say, damn. But I think it was really worth it. And every time we watch one, I really have to go right after. So I'm always like, I want to watch his reaction. And there's always a fair amount of speechlessness. And I'm always like, got to go, bye. And his mouth is agape.
Yeah, I mean, well, I was glad it was a kind of darkish day later in the evening when we watched it. There was a lot of shadow, and I could kind of retreat into the corner of the screen because that last 5-10 minutes did leave me a little bit emotional. But you know, there you go. That's why we watch it.
What happens when an English man gets emotional, Benji?
There's this thing called crying, and it's where tears come out of your eyes. Sometimes your lip quivers.
Listen, I just want to share this with you as the last thing. I went to a premiere party for Star Trek Picard last night at my friend's house. And I had to leave after the show was over, and I said I was making my Trexit. Get it? Star Trek Picard. Trexit.
Wow. You know, I thought you were going to go try and tell me about how you had to leave early because you were so emotional and offer that, you know, support and, you know, yeah, it happens to me too. But I guess a Brexit joke works too.
I had to make a stupid dad joke. All right, man. This is fun again. I'm going to stop recording. We're going to talk real soon about the Garveys at their best. Decide what the best direction is. Maybe give it, you know, a year before we come back for season 2. Like I had to wait. Absolutely not. We're going to go right into season 2 after season 1, but we have to talk about the end of season 1, and we're going to do that soon. Appreciate if anyone's listening. We really appreciate it. If anyone, we've never said this in a video before, but my son keeps reminding me, you have to tell everyone to like the video and subscribe. So,
and
this is your thing.
Hit the bell button for notifications.
And hit the bell button for notifications because we're all about monetization. No, we're actually not. We're doing this for pure love of my favorite show, and hopefully it'll become one of Benji's too. So thanks, man. We'll see you next time.
Okay, see ya.
She's as pretty as can be. She belongs to only me. How I love the girl from King Marie.